Give the call to Member Fareed.
My question is to the Treasurer. What do today's monthly inflation numbers say about the housing market? Why is the government's housing plan so important, and how does it contrast with other proposals?
Call to the Treasurer.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. Can I salute the influential role that the member for Reid plays in the delivery of our cost of living assistance and also our housing policy as well. Mr. Speaker, new figures from the Australian Bureau of Statistics today showed that headline and underlying inflation ticked up in July, but they were still well within the Reserve Bank's target band. This makes it the 8th month in a row that headline inflation and underlying inflation have come in either within or below the Reserve Bank's target range.
And
even though these numbers came in a little higher than market economists expect, they are a reminder that inflation has more than halved since we came to government, Mr. Speaker. When we came to office, those opposite had left us monthly inflation at 6.1% and absolutely galloping. It's come down substantially under this government, and interest rates have come down 3 times as a consequence of that. Now, as I've said before, as the Reserve Bank Governor said, I think I said it during question time this week, Mr. Speaker, we know that the monthly inflation figures can jump around a bit. They're less reliable than the quarterly figures. They don't compare the same basket of goods and services from month to month, Mr. Speaker. And in this case, the volatile and one-off factors include the timing of the energy rebates. But underneath the headline figures today, Mr. Speaker, there was some very encouraging signs on housing. Rental growth was lower because of our boost to Commonwealth rent assistance. Rents rose 3.9% in the year to July. That's still too high, but it would have been 5.1% were it not for the changes that we are delivering to rent assistance. Construction costs grew 0.4% in annual terms. They were growing 19.4% when we came to office. So through our $43 billion Homes for Australia plan, we're investing more in this challenge than any government in the nation's history. We're blitzing the approvals backlog, building more homes, pausing and streamlining the code, fast-tracking assessment of more than 26,000 homes, and bringing forward our 5% deposits for first home buyers, Mr. Speaker. Now, we now know, though, in the Senate, that those opposite are going to try and disallow our build-to-rent reforms, and that the industry thinks will deliver 80,000 new homes, Mr. Speaker. Now, this beggars belief, but it's true to form. If they have their way in the Senate tonight, 80,000 homes in a country that desperately needs them, Mr. Speaker. And they wasted a decade more trying to make up for lost time. We put to the people at the election more homes and smaller deposits, those opposite, fewer homes and higher prices, Mr. Speaker. And their madness in the Senate shows that they have not learned a thing, they have not changed a bit. All they have is the same nasty negativity that Australians rejected in May, and that will cost our country tens of thousands of homes.
The call to Member for Ryan.
My question is to the Prime Minister. The Australian Council of Trade Unions recently called on the government to implement a 4-day working week. Studies have shown that this boosts the health and happiness of workers and significantly boosts businesses' productivity. When will the government commit to a national plan for a 4-day work week with no loss of pay?
Oh, there you go. More for less.
Not so much the respondent that was asking the question.
That won't really fix anything.
She's entitled to ask a question.
There you go. Have it
So
more or less.
the commentary.
Let's take off the day that they were right behind in a lot of things. They believe if they take off the day, they're going to work super hard at the other 4 days.
Thank the member for her question, and of course, making sure that Australians have decent wages and conditions
That
has
works
been at
with
the
the
heart
minds.
of
When
what our government
minds
has
need to
done
think,
in our first term.
they need to
It
relax.
continues to be what
When
we
things need
focus
to
on.
build,
Today,
what
in
do they
fact,
do?
we have in the
What, build
Senate
quicker
our
and have 3 days
and
off?
rates bill to protect our
Wouldn't they
rates.
have more
And it
accidents?
is disappointing
I'll
that
have to
those
break it for her.
opposite have been
Wouldn't you be able to
playing with
spread that hard
delaying
work out
tactics
a little
in
bit,
the
5
Senate
days?
to stop stop allowing those workers to get the protections they deserve.
I'm trying to tell you,
But of
everyone.
course, when it comes to flexibility at work, our government put through laws in the last term that do allow workers to request flexibility at work, whether that's in the location of where they work or indeed how they might have a span of hours, such as compacted work weeks. We believe that we need a strong safety net in this country, but of course there is flexibility for workers and unions as well as employers to get together to organise what works for them. So we will continue to make sure that the protections are in place within the laws, but more importantly, encourage enterprise bargaining when that many of these conditions are put into place. Now, I might say that one of the key things that our government wanted to achieve is to ensure that there was more enterprise bargaining in this country. Of course, it fell to a record low under those opposite. I am very, very pleased to report to the House that as of today, there are more workers covered by enterprise bargaining than ever in the history since enterprise bargaining was first introduced. And that is because we have been absolutely focused on getting workers and their unions back to the bargaining table with employers to deliver better wages and better conditions.
Call to the honourable member for Petrie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Prime Minister. How is the Albanese Labor government delivering on its commitment to help Australians in the cities and the regions into secure housing, and are there any risks?
Call to the Prime Minister.
I thank the member for Petrie for her question and congratulate her on her election, her first speech, and on welcoming me to North Lakes, where we had good discussion with locals around the shopping centre there over a period of time. And they said we're very keen on our housing policy because that is a growing area of Queensland, a beautiful area of Queensland, now serviced by a train line, first promised in 1895 but delivered as a result of our former government's response. Now, today in Parliament, Minister O'Neill has formally fast-tracked our 5% deposit plan for first home buyers to start from the 1st of October this year. Bring it forward so that every Australian who wants to buy a home of their own, whether they live in the city or the bush, can have the opportunity to do so.
Where you can repeat a script over and over again and just argue at the other side so you can do it. And then you get to go on holidays and distance and
now, the average first home buyer in Wagga received 5% deposit in a couple of years, not the usual 9 years it would take to save 20%. The same first home buyer will save $27,000 in mortgage insurance, making an enormous difference. Thinking of the difference it will make to young people in the regions as well as in our suburbs. Now, unfortunately, the news hasn't been welcomed by everyone. The Coalition's housing spokesperson has had a lot to say about 5% deposits. He continues to say that it's about helping billionaires. The idea that billionaires are worried about whether it's a 5% or a 20% deposit for a $700,000 property is just bizarre. It's just bizarre.
You're helping billionaires
Sometimes they get all
because if you're already in a country
ways to say
that
no.
had 10% and 20% deposits, if you look at the market, the real world, right, a lot of Australians have lost their homes, right? And they saved and did more, right? Did harder. That's the history right now. And now they're saying, hang on, we'll just make it easier and then we'll let people get loans so later on they lose their homes. What that means is, and why the other guy said billionaires get richer, these people end up getting huge debts that they still have to pay for, no homes, like losing a car, no home, and some rich idiot can come in and buy your home at a discount. A little bit like in Happy Gilmore. You know what I mean? But they don't see it like that. All they see is, what script has he got written?
That is what is going on here.
What's going on?
It's worse than that, of course, because now they're coming after renters. Senator Bragg has said that the build-to-rent scheme is
the filling
a
of
massive
money.
conspiracy
Then they will
between
easily
Mr.
afford
Chalmers,
20% or
the
20%.
unions, and the
Right, that's how you fix
funds
this
to become
issue. You don't do what they do. That's like the banks throwing out money and they had that issue, remember that one? That's why we're in this issue.
My Senator
No, they're
Roberts in
not.
the debate
They're
over
doing
there,
the
it's
same
not to read
thing.
part
That's
of
what
the
public
World
rights is like.
Economic Forum.
Taxes like on Medicare. It's what
I
mandates.
kid you not. I kid you not.
No, pass it up. Get away with it.
Those opposite
People think that.
trying to just
Cold.
oppose everything. It's like they're allergic to helping Australians into housing. They're allergic
Cold or
to trying
wolves.
to help
Wouldn't you think?
renters. They haven't learned. They
Let
haven't
down
changed.
Progress is time.
They're just getting stranger.
Call to the Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My
Well, you
question
know,
is to
this
the Prime
guy
Minister.
says the
In
same shit every
2023,
day.
the Senate
And why
References
is that?
Committee on Foreign Affairs, Defence and
That's
Trade
because they repeat.
recommended that the Australian government list the Islamic Revolutionary
That's
Guard
because they
Corps
can't
as a
learn.
terrorist organisation.
Which one sounds
Prime
better?
Minister,
Would there
why
be a
did
good
you opt
answer?
to take a deliberate decision
Well, they all
to
have each
reject
other.
that
When it
recommendation
comes to
in 2
bad
years?
outcome, there's no answer.
Call to the Prime Minister.
He obviously likes to repeat
Mr.
to get
Speaker,
paid,
on
man.
these issues,
If you drive
we
me
take
wrong,
advice from the intelligence agencies. We go through our appropriate processes,
obviously you'll
including
find
the
out, obviously
National
this is not
Security
real.
Committee.
It
We look
is.
at the legislation which
Check
at the
them
moment
out.
would not
Right,
allow us to list the legislation
Yeah, yeah.
that we inherited as well from the former government. And the member for Canning
And that's
has
what
made it
such a
very
repeat. You're
that
watching
he
up
has
and
had
into
that
going
view
shit.
for a period of
Look
time
at
going
that
back
act
to
of ordinance
prior
and the
to
same
him being
scripts.
a
And the
minister
argument.
indeed as chair of the
Pretty
committee
annoying, eh?
and
And
spoke
occasionally,
about
there's a little bit of work there and a little bit of
Minister
progress.
for Foreign
You know what I mean?
Affairs,
Sounds like Bob Boy sandwich
the former
people
leader
with
of
their
the
photocopies. You know what I
opposition,
mean?
the former member for Dixon as well, all sat on those
These
committees.
people
And
haven't got
this was a time
disabilities,
when the chair
right?
of the intelligence
They're
committee
meant to be
was
pros.
to themselves.
So if there were disability people, go, well, it's like that. It's not pretty good.
What we have done
But
is
they're
taken
pros,
advice
so what does that mean?
from
They
the
claim to be
intelligence
pros.
agencies
Professional.
that came through on Monday. We had appropriate meetings and acted
I feel like I'm
like
doing
adults
this watching a
in the
movie.
national interest. That is what
They
we
don't-
will
you can't do nothing
continue
about
to
it.
do.
Like a last action hero, a little more.
For Hunter.
Thank you, Mr.
Well,
Speaker.
no matter what you say,
Minister for
it
Regional
won't
Development, Local Government and
They'll
Territories.
do what they want
How
to do.
is the Albanese Labor
Yeah.
Government improving access to housing for people in regional communities? And what are the contrasts between Labor's plan and other approaches?
So I guess everybody's doing housing.
For emergency.
You get these Democrats to call for it, they stand there,
Territories.
that's what we're going to do, it's going to do.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank the member for Hunter for his
He's all
question.
for it,
He's an
fine, they're
incredible
fucking
trump
government
of
will lay their
advocating for
thumbs
his
off.
community,
And
particularly for affordable housing. So thank you for your work. People in regional Australia
And
know that the
yeah,
Albanese
you'll get
Labor
the same
government has
dose of
their back,
housing
and that's why
right?
people like the
And
member
you
for
guys can change for a
Hunter
later.
keep getting voted in.
Their own
It's why
debts.
we've now got the
and
member for
taxes.
Bullwinkle,
Good
for
gracious, that is
Ballarat,
constant
for
repeat.
Bendigo. We've got regional members over here replacing
And
many.
they're richer, just like everyone said, they're
That's
laughing
right.
at.
And I'm really proud to stand up for regional Australia, and I'm proud that our government has housing on the national agenda. The importance of home ownership for
Yeah,
people in
that's why
regional
we
Australia
have
has
rules
never been greater.
Is to do things
We
like
are a
that,
government
right
that
laws,
is
and bring
dedicated
in
to
people
building
to build that.
regional Australia's
More
future.
houses.
We're not going to pick favourites through colour-coded
Bring people
spreadsheets.
to do it.
Our
Success.
government is focused on
Do a
delivering
well,
right
and
across
we
the
help
country.
them work
And
hard,
this includes
and that will help
being
you
able
build
to
houses.
provide
And be
for
legit about it. Or you go to the same
across
where
regional
I just
Australia.
spoke
It
about,
will take
which
years,
is
Mr.
going to be a
Speaker,
failure
years
like
off.
the
The
Medicare
time it
system.
takes to save a
Until
deposit,
something
helping
fixes it.
more young people
Something pays for
into
it.
that dream of home ownership. Whether you're in
Or it just
Brixton
goes
or
away.
in Bega,
That's
you'll
what's
be able
happening
to
to a lot
get
of
into your own home
Hang on.
faster. And on this side of the chamber, Mr. Speaker, we have helped more than 38,000 people into home ownership through our regional home guarantee. That is 38,000 more people who are now able to afford to live in the towns that they've grown up in, the towns they work in, and the towns they love. Mr. Speaker, since taking office, the Albanese government has invested nearly 20 times more in crisis and transitional accommodation than the previous coalition did in 10 years. We're delivering practical solutions for people who need crisis accommodation. There are 42 projects underway across the country supporting housing in regional communities in the Blue Mountains and in Queanbeyan.
Projects
We are committed
underway.
to delivering infrastructure across regional
It's
Australia,
success all the time,
which
it's not the actual
includes partnering with
stories.
other levels
It
of
is
government
what?
to deliver the enabling
Projects
infrastructure
underway.
that regional communities need to deliver more homes. Our housing support program is providing
Which is
millions
nice,
to
the
regional
first not
communities.
to. It
$27
must
billion
be part of that
to
sin,
rural
where
for their wastewater treatment
only
plant to
not
unlock
sinners can
400
see it,
new
there's not
homes.
enough. They
$45
have to
million
go
to deliver sewer and
in
water
there,
infrastructure in
hiding their
PMC,
bubbles,
including
really,
water
yeah,
treatment
behind
plants to
that.
unlock 430
Or you
homes,
go out
and
and
$10 million
turn
for
it around.
enabling infrastructure at Lake Wyanga to deliver
Well, that's what they do,
500
it's been happening
homes.
for a while.
Because on this side of the house,
Well,
we
you
want to
don't
see
get
more
educated to
Aussies
see
into
it.
homes
It's
in the
just be
regions
done.
that they want to live in.
Like I talked about, it's
Regional
best to be a
communities
dummy
know they
because
can
you'll be
vote
more
Labor
happy
and
not
they
knowing
can
that you
get
get
results
results.
in their community.
And that's sad.
Member for Cowper.
Yes,
What
my
was the goal?
question is to the Assistant Treasurer. Will the Assistant Treasurer rule out changes to the fuel tax credit scheme?
Best way to fix fuel, that's always like everyone in the world.
Assistant
Create your
Treasurer,
own.
Minister
That's
for
what it's all about.
Financial Services.
That problem goes away forever.
Thank you.
no problem why you might have
For your question.
should be making
Speaker,
money.
I'm asked
The
about
countries that
the
supply
government's
fuel,
tax
they
policies.
don't have a fuel
But
problem,
what I
they get
can
it for
say
2
is
cents
the
a litre,
government
man.
went to the
Right?
last election
And they're making
with
a
a
killing.
clear set
You get
of
it?
tax policies.
This
Those
is
tax
Australia.
policies
Oh, hang on, we're all
include
words.
reducing taxes
We'll get
on every single taxpayer.
Fucking
So what
crap.
I'd say is that reflects successive years
All
in
office
which we
workers
have
are
reduced taxes on
We all
every
push that
single
button and
taxpayer.
out.
I might just by
the
way of
monthly
contrast, I
bubble
know
here in
this question
Australia.
was about the
You
opposition,
get it?
but I think it's just worth adding in by way of
That's
one
why they
second.
don't see.
That there is a direct contrast to those opposite
Sad.
who went to the last election with an explicit policy of coming into this
They don't
place
have anyone
after the
to
election
agree.
and raising taxes
They're
on
really
every single
connected to
taxpayer.
do. They just do stories and
Assistant Treasurer
then they come up together with something
somebody from the
that
matters
is what they believe they should do for the flock.
Relevant speaker, this is
You
a
know,
really
they
important question,
retire,
especially
they
to
build up, so they
rural
can't
region
leave.
Australia on the
How
fuel
to
tax
control
credit
it.
scheme.
It's sad when you see a story like that. They all
I
do
think
that.
the
Ah,
member
but that's human
wanted
history.
the
So
Assistant
one
Treasurer
day,
about alternative
one country
policies.
get it
So
right,
asked
there's
about
some stories
any other
perhaps
things, and
because
then
no one's really got
the
it right.
specific
As we get
topic he was
smarter and
asked
got
to make his
changes
answer
every day in some sort of ways.
Otherwise, I'll sit it down.
What I would say
Basically,
is
one
that
day,
those
they'll know what
opposites
basis
have reduced
they didn't want
themselves.
to go
And when
on
it comes to
common
taxing,
sense
it's rule in,
to know what
it's
mine
rule in, rule out game. What I would say is our tax policies
Hopefully,
have not
they'll
changed
spread out
to
and learn
reduce
as much as
taxes
they
on
can.
taxpayers, and that's what I stick by.
You get that out.
Order.
Order. You already know this. That's why they talk about school's so important every year, because it never gets there because of what I just talked about. Call back now. It's got a pattern of repeat, destruction, residing, new residing. They fuck off, the rich fuck off, and fuck it. Get away with it. Buy their gold and shit, and then restart. It's a sad society. So if you ever want to change that, then they gotta fuck off. They do all the goodies, you can't win them. Or if they do, just cover make their goodies, not
Minister
being
of
managed.
Veterans Affairs and the Minister for
No, you can do
Defence
that.
Personnel.
What you believe is treasure, and what you believe is money. Back in the day, chocolate, beads, right, were classed as money. Incense was classed as money. That was a nice smell, right?
We all
So it's up to you what you class as
receive
treasure
the very
was,
best
and what you
care
really
when
need.
they need it.
You wouldn't need gold if you don't need taxes
Because we
too
know
much,
that
and
people
you
move
don't
out
do it out like it's so
over
expensive,
their head.
right?
But we also know
But that
that
goes
we are in a
into
position to be able to help our
really
veterans
do
get back onto their
And
feet
that's very
more
good.
quickly when they get the
That's why
support
they believe in
services
it,
that they
because
need
that's
as
how they
well.
make their money to
And
get
when
this
people
partly
put
more
on our
gold and
nation
practice in a
uniform on our
society
behalf,
where the work
we
is
have
flat
an
out.
obligation to make sure that they get
Pretty
that
much
support.
fucking battle out
Every
there.
year, about
Yeah, to
6,000
getting humans to work flat
find
out.
themselves
Look
at
at it.
risk of homelessness. It's why in the lead up to the 2022 election, as part of our $10 billion Housing Australia Future Fund, we specifically
The
committed
whole
to a
barbaric
$30 million of
system
funding to support
that
housing
comes
for
today
veterans
on
as
earth
well
for
as
a
those
while. But
wraparound support
Jesus started
services.
mentioning about a
And we
while
are
back.
doing that to support
His
veterans
plan, his
all
way.
over the country. with
try to show a
better
point
wellbeing
for
support
the
for
next
our
coming
veterans and families
after
most,
that,
and of
right?
course through our
Of
veteran
course, the next coming after that,
housing
something
program.
take the sins away. How much the sins are meant to
Goes
go on?
forward up
If
to
the sins are meant to
70
be on, why the
to
fuck is
provide
it the next
prices
coming?
of transitional
Jesus
accommodation
hasn't even
for
got
our
what
veterans
Jesus
and
was trying to
families.
say.
It'll mean you'll see
And when you
housing
don't,
rolled
you
out
get the
across
next
the far
coming.
north of Queensland,
Huh?
in southern New
It's a
South
good one or a
Wales,
bad
the
one?
southern suburbs of
Right?
Perth, and central
It's coming.
Queensland, in the mid-north coast of New South Wales, in Victoria,
Right?
all across
What
the
they say
country.
about.
Service
It's
provision
your
is
choice.
expected to be rolled
Gave
out
you freedom.
to commence from the beginning of 2026.
And gave you a
We will
nice
see
space
more
when
bricks and
you
mortar
do.
facilities coming through,
So I get a nice
being
kid
delivered all
putting
the way
them in,
through
that's
to
the real.
2028.
You got the
And
education.
as we
Here's
hear
your
on
house,
those
you've got the goodies in it.
why is it taking
It's
so long?
it's like a train. You've got all the things in it. As long as you get along, you'll be alright. But if you fuck up, you'll be fine. You fuck up that one million man, he's way out to that
Especially
soon.
when you consider that it is those
And
opposite
that's where
the voices of those opposites that cause such delay. Particularly, I think it's worth
Now going back to
everyone's attention.
that
They're rolling out
trailer with the
government
cows in
support
it,
in
they
the electric
wire
of
up.
the leader of the
Right?
opposition.
There's no going back. You only get the train, you get it, how they bring back the cows.
And yet,
They're going to need some
it's
other
those
source,
people
you know,
that
drive
are
that.
holding up the legislation that would enable us to deliver those support services. Just like they're holding up the bill to rent scheme in the Senate right
Now,
now.
if you come to
The
the peak,
opposition here has fall when it comes to not delivering housing. We are going about delivering
Now,
housing
remember, I
to
just on a
support
very
our
low visit.
veterans.
With this hot water
We've got the
service,
funding going out
if you run it like normal people do, it wouldn't last long.
by you,
Right?
leader of the opposition. You caused
Come in and try that test. It's a little small hot water service. That's a plumber. You know, how long did you have a decent shower for unless you had a visit?
Just want to remind ministers, particularly Minister that and
And my voice today,
comparative rather the term you
has had enough of fucking
is not the
butter.
correct term to use when addressing through the chair. Call to the Deputy Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question goes to the Treasurer. Can the Treasurer explain to the House why electricity prices have jumped an extraordinary 13% over the past 12 months?
Oh, that's because,
Call to
here comes a bit of comedy, but perhaps true. That's because it's got to jump up so we can get enough taxes from the rich people so we can give them that $275. You haven't reached there yet, so the rich are going to tack it up so we look like they're getting something. You know what I mean? Let's get back on.
Treasurer.
Mr. Speaker, I want to be really clear and
They'll
say
get enough profits where we can now give the people back.
I will be
That's $275 after they've all paid that $2 grand. It's called trickery, sleight of hand. Right? Could be business.
energy prices as the member for Fairfax.
Hello, hello.
Ask people who took the member for Fairfax seriously on energy prices used to sit over there and now they watch Question Time from home. Mr. Speaker.
Take it
And
away.
that was the madness.
You know what you guys do? You bring last week's group
Fairfax was responsible.
and then 10 minutes extra work.
The pure madness
No.
was that he wanted to waste hundreds of billions of
They can't even
dollars
get the basics.
building nuclear reactors.
What's the basics here that I've talked about, everybody? What's the basics here? I want to talk over them. Was to be quiet. You see? So if they're these children that can't even be quiet, you reckon they should be having a knife? Should they use power tools and that when they don't listen? Because they can't even be quiet when you ask them to be quiet so they can listen. You get it? It's pretty fucking sad, eh? But it's true. It's right here.
Energy prices up,
Isn't it? So there. You don't even see it. So if you don't see that right now, you don't see that, then you're in the book that Jesus said you're in. That you don't see it. Trust me. And that's sad. And perhaps you don't see because you're only hearing this clip, you haven't got enough education, and there'll be lots of you, it'll be true. You don't see. But when do you see? And when you're meant to see? And what education is meant to make us see? How do you put all that education together? I've been talking about, haven't I? But apparently it must be not true what I talk about. But yet every time I'm around people personally and use those things, they love it. They say that. I see people say that they love it, but then when certain people use the same tactic they're using, it doesn't work. Why is that? Because it must be fake. Hey,
I'm
script lines in the end to benefit. I noticed that. And so you'll get this kind of politician outcomes, world outcomes.
The treasurer wasn't asked about.
It's
energy
just the
sources.
bullies gotten older, continuing to laugh and carry on between the gangs and so on. That's what it is, and that's that, isn't it? It never goes away. It's right there. Huh?
But he was asked about prices.
Now I talked about the story about me being a prefect, and then I got done over not to be a prefect because they thought that I was like a bully, which I really wasn't. Right? And I was just learning like everyone else, and that would have been a good time to help me to move on in an area quicker, but it didn't. It actually kept me into, I will head a bully area because they believed that I couldn't do the job because I bully sometimes. Shocking, eh? But what are these things doing right now? Would have been pro at it. Fuck, I went the wrong way. I went that stupid Santa Claus bullshit, thinking that we could either be it or it's going to be real at any time, but it never will with the wolves around, right? It's the only thing that makes sense. Little pig, let me in.
His answer to the question was about prices, and he could talk about PHs, but not the opposition's policy.
The worst, thank you, Mr. Speaker. The worst thing for energy prices would be if we went down the path proposed by those opposite, which would have pushed energy prices up.
Yeah, the worst thing for energy prices is the government took it over and actually had a nice energy grid and got it right and made a killing like energy grids and energy companies can that we hear about in movies and around the world when it comes to oil and shit like that. Our country would be really thriving and would have lower tax and all sorts of shit because they'll do their shit right, but sadly, that's not the case. Let's keep on going.
Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker.
So this is the...
You already had your
We're here for a penny.
We're just
Having fun.
go take
Even though we know we're failing. Isn't that sad?
and
I just told you that they're failing, then he will tell them that. But they take it as a joke, aren't they? You know, I wouldn't be laughing at all when I'm sitting there and I was a serious person and now in a driving test of what they teach us, what a debate is at school. Do not talk, let them talk one at a time. Right? You get it? But then you go to real life, after they speak about Santa Claus and you debate about what a real debate's meant to be, and then you have that laughing clown who's the real world, right, that sits there repeat, I can't even get it. It'll be the same because we're stuck in this repeat, we're not true. Doesn't that suck? But let's continue.
exhale. Can we just get that?
And that's why I'm ready to go see my maker because I've already seen here and I don't like it. I can't do anything with it either, except join it. So unless they win that battle with me joining it, it'll have to be the other outcome, won't it?
That's what I'm worried about. Just don't get the chance.
That's what I'm worried about.
Jump up
Told
and
the
say
police
what you
similar
feel
things
like.
today.
How many
They already
times?
do.
So just assume. Just
They back up these type of things. That's real life, isn't it? It's true right now.
The member for McEwen.
Police are doing investigations like they say. I hope the police really do investigations. All the police really have to do is while they're there, we've got all these spots to help us out so we don't lose our freedom, but if they all get blackmailed and played and join the same team, we're fucked. And that's what happens to corrupt countries, is they got corrupter and corrupter. So the police are always meant to be there for the people. So when you see the police knocking out people because they didn't want to wear a mask, that's free will, basic, right? I just talked about how you teach us at school what free will is and all this shit. And yet they beat up old people, told them to get away just because they didn't want to wear a mask. Seriously? You know why Americans don't wear helmets? Of that rule. If you want to fall off the bike and crack your head, Joe, so be it. Right? And if you want to fly out of your car, they at least you have the seatbelt one, but they didn't for a while. But they had it. If you want to go flying out of the car and kill yourself, so be it. And if you injure someone in that's what Australians use. They use this one little bit of nothing to make everyone to suffer. If you injure someone flying out, then you're in trouble too. You had the opportunity to have the seatbelt to save you on the insurance cost or something, perhaps when you come out and injure someone. But instead of having it like that, which is legit ways, they just go, no, you're all punished. No, it's this way. No? And it's sad. They can't find all in between them what's actually the right way. Like all their Bibles and that spread out and stuff. But I'm going to leave it there. And I'm going to go do something else in life besides same boring repeat that gets nowhere, eh? You always got to learn to take your shoes off, and when you really get serious in things, it just takes a little time, and then eventually you'll be taking your shoes off. I'll be doing the same thing in this era about getting the fuck out of here. But the things that say go away themselves and beat you with a stick and use all these excuses of why they could do that and want you gone, like to keep you there to still beat you with a stick. It's like these wolves with the sheep and that. See you later.